Not now. Welcome
Not now.
everybody. It's the top of the hour, wherever you are. I know it's the top of the hour. It's 9 o'clock Eastern here for us, and I appreciate you being here with me. My name is Jim Tanner. I'm going to be joined by several folks helping me this evening for Millionaire Monday. This is our final time together here in the month of April. So hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this. As a matter of fact, just as I go through kind of some housekeeping as we get started, for those of you that are with us live here this evening, you have access to the chat. So I would love for you to join us in the chat and share where you're joining us from. We have turned off your ability to turn on or unmute your microphone. I think we turned off the cameras as well. We just want to keep this flowing. We're going to go through some material very quickly. We're probably going to spend about an hour here together. So I'm going to be talking tonight in week 4 of this 4-week series about being tough, resilient, focused on your business and your business's future, and not getting distracted by the things that come up. Now, I just want to warn you, as I did in week 3 in previewing what we're going to do here tonight, that some of this is tough to hear. And by the way, this is the type of coaching that works for me. I'm going to share it with you tonight. I know that it's not the motivating type of coaching for every personality type, but I do think it's an honest conversation that we have to have. So as we're getting started here today, I see we've got folks from New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Massachusetts, New York, Louisiana. Welcome to all of you. And some of you that I've asked to speak, I'm going to, as we roll on, I'll add you as a co-host as we get going here. So don't panic. You don't need to text me. I know who I've got on my speakers list, and some of you are already set up as co-hosts. You're going to help me with letting people in. Others of you that I haven't turned on as a co-host yet, I'm going to get to here in a few moments. But as we get started, let's just get right into this topic. And let's think about, first of all, so it's been the month of April. What was the point of this? It was the bridge, I felt, coming out of our international convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. A bridge to, because there's so much emotion coming out of convention. There's emotion for all of us that were there. Frankly, there's emotion for those of us that chose not to be there. So whatever the emotion is, there was emotion. There was a lot of emotion. We could feel it across the US and Canada coming out of that event. And I was thinking, I really want to be able to spend some time with people that I care about and make sure that I can, in some way, with all of these years of experience, shepherd you through this process of coming out of a big event, the biggest event really in our company's history, convention celebrating 51 years in business, celebrating the return to live events in a way that we never celebrated over the last several years. It was an emotional feeling, right? And so we come out of that and we went into week 1, that first Monday night, and we talked about creating independent associates in your team, allowing yourself or creating an environment for yourself where you can have a business where the people are so independent that you can build a big team. I'm going to talk tonight about some interactions I've had with our #1 income earner right now, our top builder, Brian Carruthers, and how he helped me set my focus on some of the things we've been talking about. So that was week 1, how to create independence, talking about getting people focused on or having the knowledge, whether they're new or they've been around for a while, to know how to call the home office, how to do a chat with the home office, how to get resources from LS Engage, how to be independent for themselves so that you can support them, certainly, but so you can keep building. Then we talked about, in week 2, the 10 core commitments. What is really, it's the scrolls, it's the guideposts, it's the blueprint for how to build this business big. See, there's a lot of things you can do transactionally in our business, and I've done those things. You can sell a membership and get paid. You can build a team of people that sell memberships and get paid. And you can also build a big, massive business full of this holy grail in our space, which is called duplication, where you have a business that no longer needs your personal attention and energy on a daily basis. And even without your personal attention, without your energy, it continues to not only support itself, but to thrive and grow and get bigger than it did before. We call that momentum also. And so we talked about that and how the 10 core commitments get you there. And then last week, when we came together, we drilled down into Super Saturday. We talked about why Super Saturday matters so much. And we certainly talked about other things, but we really focused in on that Super Saturday event. Really, it's the regional convention that happens on a monthly basis. 12 opportunities to make the most of as we roll towards the big event, which is our international convention, which happens only once a year. And so here we are today. And I told you last week we were going to talk about being tough. And I warned you that I was going to say things that maybe were not popular or felt good to hear. But I'm grateful that I'm here 19 plus years later because I realized these things, because I was really born into these. I'm going to tell a little bit of my story as we go. That comes the story of Jim Tanner before this business and how I was prepared for this business without even really knowing this is what I was preparing for. So as time goes on, I'm going to share all of that as well. But that's where we are today. We're here to talk about weathering the storm, focusing on the future, doing something bigger than you might have done on your own in a different environment. And so I just want to say this, and I've got some notes because I want to stay on track and I want to respect everybody's time. But this business, to do this business at a high level, it requires us to be tough. We could probably come up with some other words for that are equal, but I'm just going to use that word, tough or resilient or focused on the future, but tough. Let's say tough. And some of you are tough in different ways, right? Some of you will, and for this business, let's talk specifically about that. Like some of you are already tough for this business. You are able to weather things. Some of you will get tough. You'll just stick around and you will tough this business out. And some of you, and this is the part nobody wants to hear, some of you will just quit because you aren't interested in becoming tough. You will find yourself at a crossroads at some point where you don't feel like it's worth it to overcome what's in front of you in this business. And as I drill down in that, because I just said something that's wildly controversial, I don't know that any leader would say, well, Jim, let's get them all on a Zoom and tell them that they're going to quit. But I think that, and I would argue that if we talk about it, we disempower the very things that get us to quit. Like if we acknowledge it and we work together and we walk this road together, then guess what's going to happen is when those things that I'm talking about come up, you'll say, you know what? I had heard and learned that this was coming. And because it did come and we'd already talked about it, I'm prepared for this. This is natural and it's part of the process and I can move past this. So I got some thoughts for you. Number one, and pretend I didn't say number one, but let me just start with, because these are not numbered, but let me just start with this. In our business, I want to address this elephant in the room, okay? In our business, you know what? Here we are. We're 9 minutes in. Let me just take a pause. Grab the chat. Unless you're driving a car or flying an airplane, don't do this because it's not safe. But for the rest of you, if you're with me, can I just get a number one that it's okay for me to just talk tough, talk plain, talk about 19 years in this business, talk about skinning my knee and getting back up, talk about crying in the dark. You know, that's where men cry, in the dark. And then having to just dust myself off and do this again, stomping down the stairs, thinking that I'd had this all figured out only to have the bottom fall out on me and then having to just deal with that. Is it okay? Laura said, I am driving. Stop it, Laura, don't drive and text. Okay. And if you do, don't attribute it to a training I'm doing. Okay. So here's the deal. Okay. The first conflict in our business in direct sales is this: to build the big team, to have the big tent, to be in a position where you can have a lot of different people. Here's another way to say it. To be in a position where you can build the team where you get a Jim Tanner. I don't know if that's what you'd want, but I'd want some more of me on my team because I know what I've done to get that. Because remember, I didn't come from high powered sales. I wasn't an insurance guy, a real estate guy. I wasn't a network marketing master. I was delivering furniture and I loved the membership. I had no skills. And by the way, when I looked at this, as excited as I was, I could easily make a list in my mind of why I shouldn't do this, why this was going to be another failure for Jim Tanner. But how to get me and your team is you've got to have a big tent where you can absorb into your team and attract to you and pull in people from an incredibly diverse background, right? So, which is different than targeting. There's other trainings I do where I talk about targeting people for business solutions. I'm just talking about building the big team where you're not you're not worried about what someone's background is. You're only worried about what their motivation is, their interest is. Do they want to do this with us? Are they in? Are they saying yes? So here's the way to attract the big recruiting numbers is you have to be able to communicate that the opportunity is for people at every level. That's where you see a lot of communication around make an extra $500 a month, make an extra $1,000 a month, right? You've seen all of this. Well, that all is appropriate because that's how you get the big organization growing in your team, where there's a lot of people joining because they see an opportunity for themselves. But here's the problem is, the positive is we're a company that meets people where they are. Like my goal was to make $400 a week doing this. That's the biggest amount of money that I could come up with. That's about $20,000 a year, by the way. Here's why. I was working and commuting 80 hours a week. I'm going to talk more tonight about my life before Legal Shield than I ever have, unless I run out of energy, which I don't think I will. More than I've ever talked about, more than I wrote about. There's 100 pages that didn't make it into On Purpose. That's all about my life before Legal Shield. That when I wrote it, alongside of everything I wrote, I said, I'm going to have to tell that story somewhere else because it doesn't fit with On Purpose. So for those of you that read On Purpose, that starts with me joining this business, I'm going to take you backwards before we're done tonight. But I needed to make $400 a week to do this business. So if all of the communication was about how to make $100,000 a year or $100,000 a month, like Brian Carruthers makes right now, like Dave Savula made when I joined this business, if it was about that, if that was the communication, it would have blown me out of the water. I would have been like, whoa, like clearly this is not for me. And it would have confirmed all of the things that I was listing as reasons I couldn't do this, because I didn't know anybody that could make $100,000 a year. Certainly not from home. Certainly not. I didn't know people like that. I mean, I worked for people that were many levels above me that made that kind of money, but it would take me a lifetime in the world I was working in to achieve those levels, and I probably would never make them. So what I'm saying is, it's powerful that we have an opportunity that communicates you can make an extra $500 a month, an extra $1,000 a month. You can make $400 a week, which is what I was looking for. That was the price of my freedom. I could quit a full-time job and a part-time job. I could get control of my life for $400 a week. So I needed communication that suggested to me that was reasonable and realistic. I hope you're with me. But here's the challenge of that. In the big picture, so that's how you attract people into your business. But in the big picture of setting goals for your business, of keeping yourself from quitting your business, those numbers don't get you there. And we've talked about, if you've been with me through any trainings, I've already said what I'm about to say, but here was my situation. At $400 a week, I was able to quit 2 jobs and get control of my life. And I felt really good about that. And I did that in this business at the director level, right? I didn't have to there was no senior director back then. I didn't have to qualify for executive director. I wasn't trying to quit a $100,000 a year career or a $250,000 a year career. $400 a week, I got there pretty quickly. And then I was able to have that. But here's what happened. So here's the part that never makes it into the highlight reel. At $400 a week in this business, it didn't happen every week. So I went from having jobs where I got a check every Friday, which was my life as an adult, even in high school, like I always got paid when I was supposed to get paid. I never had a check bounce. I never had a boss tell me that they couldn't pay me. So I knew that when you worked, you got paid. And that was the security, if you want to use that word, of that. And then all of a sudden, I left that job world behind for a variety of reasons, because I was making money, because I was trying to do group sales and I couldn't do group sales and have a day job, because I wanted to honor the 10 core commitments and I couldn't make it to my night briefings because I worked until 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and we had briefings at 7 o'clock at night. And I felt that because I heard the training. I also was tied up every Saturday, and I felt that I felt the pain of not being a Super Saturday. So I was looking for a path to my freedom through this business. And at that time, I didn't contemplate making a six-figure income. I didn't contemplate becoming a millionaire in this business. I just wanted to make what I was already making, but I wanted to make it here. I know that makes sense to you. But here's the problem with that. On the weeks that it wasn't going that way, I had this burning thing in my brain that said, dude, you can just go back to what you already did and they'll pay you every Friday. You can do this and figure this out and keep going back. So there's people that want to quit their jobs that are not yet at $400 a week or whatever their number is to quit their job with this business. There's people that have quit their job and they're not at the number that makes them feel secure in this business. Or there's people that, like, your spouse is working, or I'll say partner, like your partner is working. You've got someone in the family that's supporting your dream by keeping that traditional job role. And you're not where you want to be. Maybe you want to retire them, or maybe you just want to show that, like, you don't have to go get a job. But there's all this pain right around there. And we lose people in this business. They don't tough this out because their goal, like my goal, is too small. So I wanted to tackle this first because you have to comprehend this. If you're going to be the big leader of the big team, which is what Monday nights have been about this month of April, if you're going to be the big leader of the big team, the thing they don't tell you is you've got to figure that out. You've got to communicate that it's okay to come in to make an extra $500 a month, an extra $1,000 a month. It's okay to come in to replace your $400 or $500 or $600 a week job, but that goal will not sustain you in this business. Because if you're already employable, like I was at $400 a week, then the temptation to go back is so strong that you end up in this really painful, just a hamster wheel of, like, Legal Shield I love, but it doesn't pay as well as the job I could have. And so let me contrast that. What if your goal is $100,000 a year? Now, I don't know, I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people live, and I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people on replay. And, wouldn't it be great if a year from now someone is watching this? What if 5 years from now someone is watching this? I hope so. I hope this is valuable enough for that someone shared this with you 5 years after I said it. But watch this. When I switched my goal from $400 a week, which I was making most weeks, and when I wasn't, it hurt so much that I was tempted to go backwards and just say, I'm just going to go work somewhere, because I could get jobs paying that kind of money. When the goal became $100,000 a year, I was no longer capable. Watch, just please come with me on this journey. With my high school education in upstate New York and Vermont, where I'm from, there was no job ever anywhere that would compete with that goal of $100,000 a year. I'm not today, 20 years later, $2 million in this business later, all the times you see me speak in front of thousands of people, do you know that if I picked up Indeed.com right now or the newspaper, you know what I could do? I would be at the mall running a cash register. There's no executive team at some giant insurance company that's going to offer me $250,000 a year, because I am still who I was in the world that I lived in. But because I stepped into this world, all of the rules changed. And that's all I'm asking of you is, number one, to be tough is to set a goal that's so absurd for you right now that to achieve it and be in pursuit of it is to abandon all other options. And then to teach that into your team, to be careful that you don't explode the brain of someone who's brand new in your team. Because Mark Riches didn't tell me on week one that I shouldn't have a goal of $400 a week. He helped me, and others helped me get to $400 a week. and then didn't let me be satisfied there, kept me moving towards a different, brighter horizon than where I was. So yes, this business meets us where we are, but it can't leave us where we are. Otherwise, we'll go back to where we were. And I've seen people go back to where they were. I've seen people do it. I've seen people that were making the money they needed to make to leave the job world behind, but because they weren't making the big number yet, something was tougher than they were. A group that they were so sure was going to come through put them off or told them no altogether. They had some cancellations and chargebacks. They had some stuff that happened. And because they didn't have a big enough picture of where they were going, where they were was what they compared to where they used to be. And I just want you to teach in your team and to get into your brain that you have to focus on where you're going. And if there's any comparison to be had, compare where you're headed to where you were, and you'll see that chasm develop, and you'll know that this is worth moving forward with. That's really the first thing that I wanted to ground this whole thing in, is to let you know that just flat out matters. To have a bigger vision than just replacing your income, to have a bigger vision than just replacing some of your goals. Okay, you've got to have that first, and you've got to see, this is the thing, is it's not enough to have that. You've got to teach that, because if you're going to build the big team, you've got to teach that. You've got to challenge people to think bigger. That's what core commitment number one is for. If we can get them reading 10 pages of a book they would have never read, if we can get them listening to 15 minutes of an audio they would have never listened to, if we can get them to just develop a little bit personally, then we can expand their vision for what's possible for them. I want you to write this in your notes if you're writing notes, if you're somewhere where it's safe. I want you to imagine a tree. Write this however it impacts you, but I want you to picture a tree. This is what I think about when I think about our topic tonight, okay? And I've been told that this is not an accurate description of the word resilience, but it's working for me currently. So I want to talk to you about how I feel resilience in me currently. And I've said to many of you, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I've said to many of you that we have to forgive ourselves of the lockdowns, of COVID, of uncertainty, of having more questions than answers from March of 2020 forward. And wherever that lands for you politically, or whoever side you think best represents how you feel about that, none of that matters. What does matter is that a whole bunch of stuff happened that none of us were expecting to happen. And we can't compare what we did during that period of time with what we might have intended to do. We just have to give ourselves a clean slate. I'm giving myself that gift. I'm reminding myself of that. I hope you do too. But when I think about resilience during that period of time, here's what I imagine is a tree that in a heavy wind, in a heavy storm, bends but doesn't break. And I hope you could see that. And again, write it down however it impacts you, however you feel it. But that's how I feel resilience today. And in some ways, I celebrate that resilience, right? Because we didn't break. We're here, man. We are here. And a lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of stuff will happen. And if we can be that tree that bends but doesn't uproot, bends but doesn't snap over, in the heaviest of winds, in the toughest of storms, that to me is something worth celebrating. But I want to suggest also in this environment that perhaps just not breaking isn't quite enough. That just having that resilience to survive is certainly is commendable, but it doesn't move us forward. And you have to keep moving forward in pursuit of something, in pursuit of a future that's radically different than the present and the past. And if you're going to move forward in pursuit of something, then we can celebrate the fact that you didn't break and you didn't uproot and you didn't get torn away and blown down the road. But we can't just celebrate that as if that is the championship ring, because that is not it. That is just not falling over. And I wish it wasn't that tough. But the fact is, all business is that tough. The fact is that people that choose more of a traditional employee route, it's that tough. I watch people in my family. I'm at an age now where I've said goodbye to people in my family. It's hard to believe, and I don't. Yeah, I'll talk. Okay, I'm going to talk about it. I mean, it's hard to believe that I've gotten to an age, because I feel young and I don't feel that old, but it's hard to believe that I've had to say goodbye to my mother, and I deliver her eulogy, and other people in my family. But my mom, man, I just know that story so well, because she intended to do everything after she retired. That was her plan. She put everything on. She worked so hard. She worked third shift at GE in a factory. And she, by the way, loved the people she worked with, loved her work. She didn't want me to do it. She always told me, I don't want you to do this. But she loved the work. She loved the community. She loved everything about it. She made great money, quite frankly, And it was a great job. And it's the kind of jobs that really, post World War II, was the kind of jobs that made our country what it was in that period of time. And she had one of those great jobs. But she worked, and she worked overtime, and she worked on Saturdays, and she worked third shift, which meant that she worked 11 to 7 and slept in the daytime. And that was not easy for me and her and my sister when we were little. And it was even tough. And she was doing that, and she was rolling towards retirement. She had bought her home. That's that home that I have in Killington. I paid it off for her when she got ill. And she bought her little slice of heaven that she always wanted. And she had all these plans for what she was going to do there and what she was going to do with her life when she retired. And she was rounding the corner. She had 4 years left to retirement. And that's when she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she couldn't work anymore. And she got early retirement, and she had a savings, and she had a son who'd done well financially, and she didn't have to work, which thank God, because she couldn't. And she spent less than another 12 months after her diagnosis in that house, no matter how many people we paid to come in, and nurses and all of that. Sometimes money, it doesn't solve everything. And this was one of those things, because we just couldn't get reliable staffing in there so that she was safe in that house. And eventually she had to go into a nursing home, 20 years younger than every other resident. I mean, it's a tragedy of her life. And I've watched that play out in other members of my family. And I'm telling you this story because we think, most of us in the working world, that we can say no to everything now because someday we'll retire and we'll say yes to everything then. And I'm telling you, that's a gambler's mentality. For as much as people think that you and I are gambling, that is the gamble. To think that you'll arrive safely at retirement with plenty of gas left in the tank to do all the things you didn't do, it happens for so few. Now we point a camera at the few that it happened. We celebrate them, we get them a cake, and we get them a gold watch because we want everybody else to believe that it'll happen for them too. But that is exactly what doesn't happen for most people. So I just want you to understand that it isn't enough to just survive. It isn't enough to just focus on the moment. It isn't enough to just not bend or not break. We have to move forward. We have to teach that culture in our team if we want a team of people that are resilient. And as I've been choosing the word for us this evening, tough. I just want to point this out, and I'm gonna step back, and I'm gonna take a break, and I'm gonna ask a few people to speak this evening as well. But I just want to point out something, because I said some heavy stuff. So let me just kind of go in the other direction and be positive for a second. Every single Millionaire Club member, every single person that's in the Millionaire Club, the number one thing that they all have in common is they just didn't quit this business. Now, we can talk about who did it fastest and who did it bestest, and who's the best speaker and all of that stuff. But the fact is, 300 plus of those families just didn't quit. And there's 30,000 people that got a residual income check today because they didn't quit. And I want to celebrate that too, because think about becoming a Millionaire Club member. Let's just use that example. Like, how long is it going to take you to become a Millionaire Club member in this business? The answer is, who cares? I remember as they run these reports on Wednesdays. And so when you can call recognition when you're getting close to becoming a Millionaire Club member. You can call recognition, and you can ask them how close you are, and they'll tell you that will run the report on Wednesday, and they'll email you. And that's what Dorothy and the folks in that team will do for you. And it's for anything like that. But I remember as I was getting closer, having them run that number. And of course, I was doing the math at home too, but I was never trusting my math because it is a complicated compensation plan of residual income and bonuses. And sometimes a bonus or a trip is added to that number, and sometimes it isn't. And I never really understood how any of that worked. So I would call every Wednesday. And at some point, they started calling me on Wednesdays because they knew that if they didn't call me, that I was going to call them. And I remember thinking, as I was doing this, as I was getting closer and closer, I remember thinking, I can't wait till it's official. And I know that I'll never remember when that was. And both things are true. I was so excited on the day that it was official, on the Wednesday where they pulled that report, and I'd earned over $1 million from this business. I knew it would mean something to my team. It meant something to me. I wanted to join the ranks of those people. I did want to walk through those doors that you've all seen into the Millionaires Club at the International Convention. All of that was true. And I also knew in the weeks leading up to that, that I would never remember what week that was and that it would never matter. And you know what, right now, I'd have to look up what year it was when that happened. The point is, whether the company puts $1 million in your bank account, into your checking account, into your savings account, over the next 2 years or the next 20 years, it will change your life. And it will make you one of the top people in this whole company. It will make you somebody that everybody wants to meet, that everybody wants to get their picture taken with. And quite frankly, if it takes a year longer, it will still be really sweet when it happens. Now, I've got some other stuff I'm going to share with you tonight. I hope so far that some of this is thought-provoking for you. But I wanted to bring on some folks that I know, friends, some in my team, some not, that I'm on this journey with. And I asked them to just share some of their thoughts about sticking around. Now, no one I'm going to bring on has been here 19 years with me, but folks have been around and they've been through some ups and downs. And so I've asked them to share. And I'm going to take a look at who I got on my list. And I'm just going to start with John Fehrenbach. John, I believe it's 19 months for you out of Ohio since the first time you and I talked on the phone. And I said, boy, well, that radio voice. And you're here today. You've certainly had great successes. We had a blast in Hawaii. You've had some tough days. You can share those if you'd like, but I would love to just turn it over to you to share with the rest of the crew.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks, Jim, for the few minutes here this evening. Last 18 months, it's not a long time to be in a business, and a business that is yours. What's kept me here? That's a great question. And there's been some tough times. Right now, I'm currently going through, in my opinion, a little bit of a tough time because it went right out of my brain. My percentages are down, and I'm not getting bonuses that I've earned, except my percentages are down. My retention, thank you, finally came to my brain. My retention needs to be in a different place to get these bonuses, and that's tough. Mark Rich's talks all the time. The company puts all this money on the table. Let's go get it. And it's certainly a place where I like to be, is scraping that money off the table. But I believe that keeping my eye on the ball, keeping my eye on my goals, my intent, what is it that I want to do in life? I'm 62 years young, and I have a lot of life in front of me, and I love helping people. I truly from my heart love helping people, and I truly believe that our products, Legal Shield, ID Shield, and all of the subsequent pieces of those help people and give them peace. And I guess just that knowledge and that belief and the goals that I've set for myself. I've been in several businesses throughout my years, and I've had a couple pretty successful businesses. But today, those are businesses in the past. To a certain degree, I think to myself, you know, if somebody would have approached me about this business 30 years ago, you know, would I have had, would I have been in the same place? Would I have seen the vision that Harlan Stone Cipher saw, that Jim Tanner sees, that Mark Riches sees? Would I have seen that? I've done a lot over time of self-help books, and I've read a lot of things over the years, and I love that this company, at least Success Team, well, or this company is part of 10 Core Commitments, pushes, you know, reading 10 pages of a good book a day or listening to audio a day, because I know how much that has inspired me through my entire life, because I've done a lot of those things. And I think that having all that behind me keeps me motivated towards the goals. I have a board behind me that I have my goals written out on, and every day I get up from my desk and I see those goals and I read those goals, and you know, because I want them burned in my soul, so I can keep my eye on the ball. I always refer to it as the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think, Jim, you and I have had those conversations. You know, I see the light, but it's wee little. Or I see the light, it's getting a little brighter. I see the light, it's getting brighter. And that's where I am. You know, I'm heading towards that light, because I know that those tracks, if I stay on the tracks, and pardon this, stay on the system, and I guess, you know, one of the things that I really have bought into 100% is the system that Mr. Riches and Mr. Tanner have brought to the table, and you know, how we can you know, build this business. And it's not just one or two recruits, but it's a team of people, and looking for those people that aren't going to quit, that see the same vision that I do, that the rest of the team sees, and just continue to, you know, talk to them and encourage them. And I don't know, it's just I guess at the end of the day, for me, it's seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that my goals are just at the end of that light, and knowing that I can boost those goals at any time and create a light that's further down the tunnel and continue heading for it, because the train is going to keep going in the same direction. It's just where do I want my goals to be? How high do I want my goals to be? And I've been all my life such a goal-oriented type of person. If you want to call it chasing the dream, I've always chased the dream, and those dreams are my goals, and my wife's goals, and probably at the end of the day, something that had a huge influence on me in my life, that you don't have time for me to go into, but I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy for my family, not just a personal legacy. You know, here I am, larger than life, and trying to, you know, I raised 4 kids, and now 4, you know, great grandkids. You know, not just that legacy, but a financial legacy that I can pass on to my kids, and I can pass on to my grandkids, and who knows, their kids' kids might even be able to take advantage of. I mean, what a legacy that would be for each and every one of us, to have something of such a financial magnitude that it gets passed on to folks. And I guess if you wonder why I don't quit, that's why I don't quit. It's and I see this business as a tool to get there. I see it as a machine to get there. And I again, it's what I feel in my heart. And if any of you need that kind of motivation, give me a call. I'll help you out. Jim, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it. And I think it's well said. And, you know, we've been on this journey a little bit together, and I know that you are living this business. You're living Harlan's vision. You understand that it requires you to be all in on what it is that created this thing in the first place, and what it is that sustained it all of these years and now decades. And now you are certainly someone that's continuing this legacy that Harlan started by picking it up and having a desire to build it right and build it for the long term. And I thank you for that. I appreciate your thoughts tonight. And we're going to hear from a few other folks as well as we continue forward. But, you know, there's just one other thing I wanted to say to you is that as a group is that we have to develop in ourselves as leaders capacity to manage the times when, even though we know where we're going, we fall back, because that's tough. So, you know, and I'm of the age in the Northeast where the people that were grown-ups when I was a kid smoked. Well, around these parts, I don't speak for everybody in every marketplace, but around these parts these days, I don't know how that lays out. But when I was a kid, the grown-ups smoked. We didn't, people in my age group, we didn't grow up to smoke. But I watched people struggle with quitting smoking. And you can say the same thing about anything else, right? Like diet and exercise or alcohol or whatever it is. I've watched people have that challenge. And I've watched people that, for example, I'll just continue that example of smoking. I've watched people in my life try to quit smoking and then throw away their progress towards the ultimate goal of being free of nicotine because they slipped backwards one day. I wonder if you can see the parallels to our business, to have a day where things just don't go our way and then have that be the door that opens to letting it all go. And the reason I said we have to develop capacity for that is because we have to be stronger than that moment so that we can be strong enough for the people that we're developing in our teams that are living through that moment. And whatever it is, in our business, it can be a lot of things. You know, it could be Performance Club. Somebody misses Performance Club and they really had an intent. They finally made the commitment that they were not going to miss Performance Club. They made it a priority. They made it important in their lives. They decided and they still fell short. We have to be able to help them understand that that's part of the process. We have to call and eliminate the noise of things that are over communicated sometimes. Yes, there's people that have been in Performance Club since the moment they joined the company, and they probably also were the first person picked for dodgeball. They probably had, you know, their parents bought them a Corvette for when they turned 16. I don't like it. None of that matters. It doesn't matter. We're all on our own journey. We're all supporting each other on this journey. But because you stumble does not mean that you have to walk away from it. We have to communicate that to our teams. I'm watching people in this business that could be future 7-figure earners, Millionaire Club members, but they stumble at something that is, they don't recognize it as part of of their journey, of their pathway of progress. They stumble, they don't fast start qualify. Guess what? I didn't either. Big deal. They miss Performance Club. I'm 107 or 108 months in Performance Club, but I'm 19 years plus in this business. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but those two are not the same number. I missed Performance Club. And I didn't prioritize it in the beginning. I don't want to do a whole training on Performance Club, but I just think that sometimes we communicate so strongly that our individual members of the team feel like they are somehow, they're not worthy of this business if they don't do what the most perfect people have done in this business. But I didn't fast start qualify. I didn't Performance Club qualify right away. I did eventually make it my priority. And then I spent 8 weeks at my grandmother's bedside, which I don't regret for a second, in a cancer ward in Rutland, Vermont. And I'm grateful for every minute I could stay there because I watched my cousins and I watched her sons and my mom, her daughter, call in to see how many more days they could spend. You know, do I have to go to work? Can I stay another day? I didn't have to do any of that because of this business. But I also missed Performance Club and I didn't care. And some things are more important than Performance Club. Some things are more important than fast start qualifying. Some things are more important than whatever it is, because we're still flesh and blood human beings operating our lives while also part of this business. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of people older than me now. I guess I'm old now, but there was a time I was young in this business, and I worked with a lot of people in this business that were much older than me. And I was surprised that some of the things we're talking about tonight that they didn't recognize right away. They were so quick to throw away all of their progress for the first stumble. And I've watched people walk away again from a 7-figure future because something didn't go perfect, whether it's Performance Club or Fast Start, or they missed executive director. I mean, I don't want to miss executive director. I've been an executive director since May of 2012. I certainly wouldn't want to miss it, but there was times during the pandemic, 2020, 2021, where in this room I'm sitting in right now that has a fancy studio now, didn't have that. It had, a laptop, and I was probably holding it, and I was doing my work, and I was wondering if I was going to be able to hang on to it. Because again, we had more questions than answers. We had more challenges than successes. All of that was true. So I just want you to know, like, everybody that you see celebrated is having all of this conflict inside of their lives in private places that you're not a part of. This is not, it's not a reality show. You're not going to see, all of the stuff that happens because there's just no outlet for that. There's no camera crew that follows everybody around and shows you the days they're not unsure of themselves. All you see is people at their most optimistic on the big stage. And make sure you understand that. So I want to hear from some other folks that are walking this journey with me. We heard from John Fehrenbach. I'm going to ask Sonora Danzler to unmute. She's in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'll let her tell her story, but Sonora, I'm so grateful. Something Sonora says, she says I'm her dude. I don't know. I haven't quite figured out what that means, but from what I get so far, I think I like it. And, we're having a great time building this business together. Sonora, over to you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Jim. And yes, it is a good thing. My dude is a good thing. So yeah, that's just where we're going to leave that there. But guys, I'm going to start and share with you a little bit of my stories. You've heard a little bit on Meet and Greet, kind of here and there. You've heard a little bit about how I came from corporate America. I was working, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, not joking. It was really like that. And I was missing everything. I was missing kids, husband, all the important stuff to me. If you guys know me a little bit, I'm an athlete. I'm really big into running and, taking care of myself and having, that me time and my self time. And yes, I do get up at crazy times of the morning, somewhere between 3 and 4. Why? Because I'm doing stuff and I am waking up on purpose. I'm waking up with a vision and focused on exactly what it is that I'm doing for that day and getting all that stuff done. So when Jim asked me to talk a little bit about, my ups, my downs, my lows, my year. So yes, I've been in the business a little bit over 4 years. When I first started, I started at spare time. Literally maybe an hour to 2 hours a week. And no, I'm not kidding you. I quit my corporate job to spend more time with my husband and my kids and do all those things that I wanted to do for me. And, I dibble dabbled. And then a few years passed by and I started networking more, talking with business owners and stuff like that. And that was kind of more of my niche, because I came from corporate America. So I was very comfortable with talking with other business professionals and also knowing how a small business works, because I myself had a couple of small businesses as well that were up and down and they flopped as well. So I've had ups and downs. I continue to have ups and downs. And if you're one of my dudettes that I talk to on a daily or weekly, every so often, I might even vent a little bit and tell you about this, that, this, and the other. I only do that for 5 minutes, again, if you know me. And then once I'm done venting and getting it out, hey, I am done with it. It's in the past. It's like X-Lax. I'm going to let it go. And what I did within, I would say, July of last year is I drew a line in the sand. I talked to Mr. Tanner, and Jim and I have this really cool type of mentorship relationship. For the most part, I share with Jim what it is I'm doing, where I'm going, what my plan is, and then when I need his help and assistance, I'll reach out to him. So I don't reach out to him very often. I told him not to think anything bad of it. It's just that, I do love him dearly and I appreciate all that he does and his help and his mentorship. But I told him that when I need you, I'll let you know. Until then, just leave me alone. Let me do my thing. So that's the relationship that we have. And he's my dude because I don't need him around all the time. And again, Jim, I say this with so much love. But when I need you, you're there. I'll reach out to you, reply back to each other. We set up Zooms, we set up calls, and that works for us in our relationship. So, again, with the highs and the lows, and even right now, everybody, I'm going through a middle low time. And that's because I'm on a mission right now and I'm focused on where I want to go and the things that Sonora wants to do for Sonora and Sonora's business. So I'm going to share with you something that I created. I'm not exactly sure when this was, but sometime my mind is working so much faster than what I can do and what I can write stuff down. So I might voice it down or something like that. And then I'll go back to it and then I'll read it. So this is actually something that I sort of put together, but I cleaned it up a little bit because we definitely wanted it to be PG-13 for everybody. Yes, we are all adults. However, sometimes the lingo that I give myself may be a little bit harsh. So I kind of scaled it down for you, but I definitely want you guys to take notes, okay? And is it okay for me to give you the Sonora talk that Sonora gives Sonora? Is that okay? If that's okay with you guys, put in the chat, give it to me. So I'll check the chat right quick just to see if you guys are ready now. And I'm forewarning you and I'm telling you, I'm gonna give you that Sonora talk. If you've ever been around me, you know that a lot of times you get the Sonora talk anyways, even though you may or may not want to hear it, but you kind of get a little bit of it. But sometimes I kind of scale it down. So here's the Sonora talk for Sonora. Okay, I started out by saying, hey, shut up, go to work, show me what you got. Okay. And I want a little bit of participation in this next part here. So way too often we do what, everybody? What do? Way too often we do what? In regards to our business, life, goals, plans, dreams, what do? Exactly. Excuses, procrastination. That is exactly right. But this is some things that I was doing, and this actually may be you as well. So just think about it for just a second, but you talk too much. You talk too much about your goals, your plans, your dreams, and then you fail to do what? What do you fail to do, everybody? Put it in the chat right quick. What do you fail to do? Take action. Exactly. But you fail at putting in the work to achieve them. Let me repeat that back to you for the people that's in the back that didn't hear me. But you fail to put the work in to achieve them. So you might think that you're putting in the work, you're doing a little bit here, you're doing a little bit there. Remember, I said I started this business, spare time, 1 hour to 2 hours a week. Did I think that that was going to really do something and really move the needle on my business to where I wanted it to be? Absolutely not. And again, that was in my mind that I'm doing some work. So we fail to put in that work to achieve whatever it is that we're trying to go to. And everybody is different. So first of all, stop comparing yourself with everybody else that's around you, because your journey is your journey. And I know for a fact that my journey, I wouldn't have changed it, because from where I am a year till today, I can even see my growth. And I already know that I am going to continue to grow. But something that I want to share with you guys, and again, it's time. For the convention, it was break free in 2023, but it's time. It's time to shift your focus and take real. I mean, for real action. Okay. Write this down. Okay. So number one, we ready? Okay. Everybody ready? I'm gonna give you a second. I want you to write this down. Okay. I want you to stop talking and start doing. It's just that simple. Stop all the yeah, wah, wah, wah. Just stop talking and start doing. Number two, get to work. Get to work. Stop BSing yourself. Stop making excuses. Stop. It's everyone else's fault. It's my sponsor, my team, my whatever you can possibly fill in that spot. Just stop. Get to work, get into the lab. That's what I call my office, and wherever it is that I'm working, I call it a lab. So get into the lab, get into the grind. You gotta do the work. Number three, you gotta stay consistent. How many of our leaders have we heard from that says you have to stay consistent? You can't start doing it one week and then switch it off the next week and then switch to something the next month. Hey, do yourself a 90-day run. There you go, right there. Stay consistent, do a 90-day run. That'll keep you consistent because you're doing the do for 90 days. If you need workout partners, and again, it could be for our business, it doesn't matter what it is. If you need a workout partner, if you need someone to help you with inspiration to push you, not sweet talk you and give you all the warm and fuzzies that you might need to hear, you need to find you somebody who's going to push you. I'll be that person for you, but also just know if I'm going to be your workout partner, just know that you're going to get it from me, okay? Stay consistent, disciplined, and focused. Very, very important. So something else just to share with everybody right here. I was in the runnings for the Puerto Vallarta trip, and the last month, kid you not, last month, kid you not, I did not Performance Club Pro. Everything else on the money. Had all the people that I needed on the team. Retention was there. Everything. Did not Performance Club Pro. Yes, you did have to Performance Club or you had the Performance Club Pro, but I was on the June or July path where you had to be pro 6 months and then Performance Club 2 months or something like that. I forgot exactly how it goes, but the last month I was not Performance Club Pro, fell out of the rankings. Snap, just like that, almost like Thanos, guys. And whose fault was it? Mine. It was mine. Did I blame anybody else? Did I blame my kids, my spouse, my this person, even though maybe, yeah, they had some effect to it because they would, another story. But I blamed myself because I knew what I had to do. And I let the distractions distract me from doing what I needed to do to go where I needed to go. So when Mr. Tanner talks about staying focused, getting to work, and being consistent in that area of whatever your goal is, because everyone is different, that's what you got to do. And until you do that, you're always going to have difficulties getting to wherever it is that you're trying to go. So you've got to decide, you've got to draw that line in the sand, decide this is where I'm going, this is what I am focused on getting. And again, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's your business, it's your health, if it's, moving, retiring a spouse, it does not matter. You've got to have it up here so that you can put the words out there into the atmosphere so that it can be. What do they say? And I can't remember right now exactly who exactly says this quote, but if it is to be, it is up to who? Put it in the chat. If it is to be, it is up to who? It is up to me, absolutely. And another thing that I say to myself, guess what? Actions speak louder than words. You can womp, 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 talk, 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 but actions speak louder than words. And for me, Sonora always shouts it out. So I recommend that you guys do the same. I hope that this was helpful to someone. But again, this is the Sonora Talk. The Sonora talks to Sonora. The language is, a little bit down for you guys. Again, I didn't want to offend anybody or anything like that. But that's just really it, guys. So I'm wishing the best for everyone. You decided in your mind that that's what you want. Put it out in the atmosphere and it comes back at you 10 times fold. Thanks, Jim. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Sonora. I just kind of laying back and just watching it happen, and I just love it. And I love this as a conversation. So thank you for the conversation. John, thank you for the conversation. Venus Powers, you're up in a moment. Don't start yet, but I'm going to come to you next. And then I've got Chris Corley as well. And it's so important to me that you hear these voices of people that are doing this thing. You know why? Because, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but all right. There's no way for me to say what I'm about to say without it making it seem like, without me sounding like a jerk. So I'm just going to trust that there's love here. But it's recently come to my awareness that there are some environments I get into where I have been recategorized with others or famous Legal Shield people, and you don't necessarily see me in this run with you, and that's okay. I understand why, because I've had some accomplishments, but so that creates a challenge for me to share with you what I'm doing, because if you see me so far up the path that you can't run with me and that you're running after me, that's a different challenge. So one of the things I have to do is help you understand how close you are to where I am. Like, I'm nowhere compared to where we're all going, but also I'm asking other people to come on this run with me and communicate, because maybe you'll see yourself in their journey, in their footsteps, more than maybe you see yourself in mine at the moment. But I want you to think about this. So set that aside for a second. I want you to think about, how tough did Harlan Stonecipher have to be? How tough and supportive and convicted did Shirley have to be? Right? Like, we're talking about toughness tonight, but we're looking to access a toughness, not in the eye of, is it possible, like Harlan Stonecipher, Shirley Stonecipher, like Wilburn Smith, Carol Smith. We're not tasked with trying to see a future that is not clear for anyone. Like, we're talking about people, Ken Moore, we're talking about people that there was no thought that this was certain, that the Legal Shield $1 billion company, that $30 million facility that so many of you have walked through in Ada, Oklahoma, none of that was certain. We're talking about a business that Harlan and Shirley were running from their living room. How resilient and tough and focused and determined did they have to be to make the thing happen? The thing, so that then we could have the ability to come into this environment and just support each other in toughness that'll take us and our teams forward. I want you to think about that. I want you to think also about the fact that there is only one team. And while this was not a focus of my conversations coming, I went out on the road, as many of you know, last summer. I've been basically on the road as much as possible since last summer. The reason was, last year in Oklahoma City, I truly believed that we could have done better in Oklahoma City at the convention of getting us into the room in greater numbers. I've been in the rooms where we sold out a 10,000 seat arena. I have been in rooms where there was 3,000 people watching a video screen in another room because we couldn't fit them in. And so when we came to Oklahoma City last spring of 2022, and I saw that we weren't ready to be back in a room together, or maybe we had forgotten what it was like to be in that room together, that I said to the leadership, I said, put me in, coach. I'm on the road. I'll go wherever you need me to go. I want to share what it is to be in the room. And so I've been on the road. I've seen so many of you on the road, and we've had some time to hang out in these different places. But coming into convention, then coming back out of convention, I'm going to continue on the road. But one of the things that I taught in every one of those stops was the 10 core commitments. Something that I have been neglecting, that I am going to make sure I don't neglect in the future coming out of convention, is there is only one team, one dream. It's Harlan Stonecipher's team. And so I wanted to say that as I kind of shift, because you just heard from two people who are in my downline, which is a different word, right? So you heard from John Fehrenbach and Sonora Danzler, who look to me for leadership and should expect it because I'm part of their organization. But the vast majority of the relationships I have are not of people that are in my organization. They're people that have been pouring into me, and I've been hoping to pay that forward by pouring into them across the lines, because there is only one team. And so I'm going to ask Venus Powers to join us here out of the South Carolina market. Venus has not only been someone that I met just a handful of years ago, right before COVID, where we were all doing live events together, but someone that has taken us through this period by being a part of all of our Zoom trainings, and then stepped up when we went back to live events in her marketplace and said, I'm in, I'll do what needs to be done, I'll show up. So she's taking more time away from her family, more time away from her business, just like Sonora is, I should say, as well, in Colorado Springs, to make sure that live events are happening so that the 10 core commitments can become a reality again in our business. And Venus, thank you so much. And I'll turn the time over to you.
Thanks, Jim. And, Sonora, I love you. You stole my thunder a little bit because, it's hard, and it's hard to stay consistent. Some days are harder than others. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of distractions in this business. And, we work from home, and we have kids, and we have families, we have husbands, we have lives, we have, different things that happen in our lives. And, a lot of people think, well, you work from home, so you can do this and you can do that. Well, you can't. You've got Zoom scheduled, and you've got meetings scheduled, and you have times to pull leads, and you have times to send out emails, and you have times you're going to text, and you have times that you're going to spend with your team. And a lot of people don't understand that because you're at home. So you should be able to do all the things and be at home. You should be able to have surprise visitors. You should be able to take the dog to the vet. You should be able to keep a pretty Martha Stewart home. Well, I'm going to tell you, my home is not a Martha Stewart home, but it's hard. And the thing that most people don't tell you is that it's hard. This life is hard. This network marketing is hard. It takes consistency. It takes hard work. It takes commitment. It takes discipline. You can work from home. When you're at home, you work. When you're on the road, you work. You see me traveling. I travel all the time. And I have my computer with me. I have two computers with me. Right now, I have this computer that I'm Zooming with. I have a computer and another screen on this side, and I could pick my computer up and show it to you if if you wanted me to, but I have 3 monitors going all the time and my phone. So there are times when I do 2 Zooms at the same time, because we have corporate Zooms, and we have network Zooms, and we have team Zooms, and I have to talk to my team. And, we have 3 ways that we do. And, sometimes those 3 ways come in the middle of a corporate Zoom. And when you're in leadership, you have to do those corporate Zooms, because you have to be with Don Thompson, you have to be with your MVP, you have to be with your core team in your region, and then you have to be with your team who, hey, I've got a prospect and they're ready. So you have to be ready, right? So you have to listen and talk, and you have to take that call at the same time. And so, you have to be multifaceted to do this job. it's not a work from home job where you can knit and look at the computer screen and be cute and pet your cat or your dog. My dog likes to be on the Zoom with us sometimes, but you know, it takes commitment, and it takes work, and it takes focus. And you know, Sonora, she got real with you about Puerto Vallarta. Last year I missed Maui by 3%. You want to know what it's like to sit in that convention center and know that you've missed that trip by 3%? It sucks. Let me tell you. This year, it's a different reason I missed it. But there's always a reason, right? But when you think about missing something, you think about, I'll be there next year. And the thing is, you can't focus on what didn't happen. You have to focus on what can happen. And that's the best part about this business, because I've been in this business for 4.5 years. And I was on track several times for several things, and life happened. The best part about this business is you stop where you are, and when you come back to it, you start where you were. You don't have to start over again. That's the best part about Legal Shield, is that they meet you where you are. And where you are is where you start again if you have to stop. And sometimes we have to stop because life happens. The most important thing that you have to remember is don't quit. If you were on the call this morning with Timber Mosley, she was in a bad car accident in October. And there were a lot of us who checked on her where they're like, hey, we've not seen you around. What have you been doing? And, and she made executive director every month because of her business, because of the business that she wrote, because of the groups that she built, because of the relationships that she built. And, when you think about this organization, so there was one organization I was in one time, and it was, we sold pagers, right? I mean, if you're in those little beepers that like doctors used to use, you've probably seen those movies. Like if you are a George Clooney fan, you remember him in that little show where he was the ER doctor or whatever. My dog is like wanting to talk to you guys. But he had a little pager. Every time like someone got sick, he got a beep, right? I used to sell those, right? So this company, I built this incredible foundation in this company, and I needed to take some time off. And so I took 6 months off of this company. Well, when I came back, they gave me back my tenure. I didn't have to start as a new person. They gave me back my tenure. That's the only time I was ever granted that. And I was given back my same vacation time, my same sick leave, everything, because of the quality of work that I had done in that company. And because of the leadership in that company was able to give me that. But not in any other company was I ever able to have that. And, when it came time for leadership to change in that company, different people wanted things to change in that company, and I still maintained my level. And I acquired higher levels because of the quality of my work. And then when I moved to new companies, like the startup companies that you hear me talk about, when you're in a startup company and the company is being bought or sold, there are lists, and you're in San Francisco and you're on a trade show and you're, out on your own dime, right? Or the company credit card. And they're like, you're on the list. You want to know, what list are you on? Are you on the cut list? Are you on the stay list? And a lot of times people don't know which list you're on. They just know you're at the top of the list. So I was on the list, on the top of the list several times. Fortunately for me, I was on the keep list and I was on the transition team list, which meant I got to tell the rest of the people if they got to come or go, which is often very hard because there were people that I cared about. And, you know, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of integrity to be on those lists. So when you come to a company like Legal Shield and you work with people that you bring onto your team and they make the decision without you, that they don't want to stay, even though you've given them the tools, you've given them the training, you've given them the time, you've given them the materials, you've met with them and you've given them all the, the goodies like the cups and the mugs and the t-shirts and, all the notebooks and stuff. You feel a little heart hurt that they walked away, but you can't, because if, there's a 12-inch faith system, it's called, from your head to your heart. And if you don't have that 12 inches, then you don't have that 12 inches. And you have to have that 1 foot of faith. And if you don't have that 1 foot of faith, I'm glad to give it to you. I'm glad to give you my hand and bring you back up to that 1 foot. But I can't give you that 1 foot if you're not willing to give me your hand. Make sense? And so there's a lot of people in this organization that has reached out. They're not even in my team. Tammy Martin, she had been in Legal Shield for a very long time, and she needed people who could help her, and she needed people who could be real with her. And people like myself and Jim and others were able to say, Tammy, this is the path you need to take. And look at where Tammy is at. She is amazing. She recruits 5 to 8 people a month. She is a top recruiter in our organization. And I'll tell you that I would not be where I'm at today without a group of ladies. And you guys have heard me talk about them before. Karen Ward, Lisa Day, Sonora Dancer, Lenore Orlicki, Connie Ioti, or I always say her name wrong. She loves me, so I can just, she doesn't care that I'm Southern and I say it bad. But, there are people who have to hold your hand and they have to hold it tight, because this is a hard job and it's fun and there's all kinds of hoopla. But you know what? We are on a mission, and this mission provides a valuable, valuable, valuable resource to our community and to our friends and our family. And if we don't get out there and tell people about it, no one's going to tell them about it. And, my neighbor, I told her about it. The next day, she texted me her credit card number, and she uses her membership. She loves her membership, and she's had it for 4 years and 3 months. And so I have people who have used it forever and ever and ever. And I love that, because you've made a difference. My 4th customer, she was a visa holder in New York City, and her daughter was being discriminated against by an after-school bus teacher. And to this day, she still has her membership because Legal Shield was able to help her gain her citizenship to the United States. And when you have that kind of power to help someone gain that kind of liberty, you have a great product, right? And so you can't give up on this mission, and you can't give up on this power. So I might not have as much luster today as I normally have, but life happens, and sometimes the luster is not there, but the belief is. So thanks, Jim.
Venus, thank you very much. Appreciate you sharing. And I just love the authenticity of everybody's words tonight. That's what this is about. This doesn't have to be presented as easy or simple or uncomplicated. It doesn't have to be clean. It can be messy, because it's also worth it. as we continue on, I want to bring on in Cookeville, Tennessee, my good friend, Chris Corley. Now, Chris and I have been friends for, I think Chris said 5 years, and I had a chance to speak on his team call last evening real briefly. And you've all heard and watched him take this journey. And Chris, you can share whatever is on your heart tonight, but we'd love to hear from you as well. Take it away, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. And boy, I love being on the Zoom, and thank you to everyone that has shared and from the heart. I really appreciate that. I'm not gonna spend too much time here, but I wanted to, I was thinking about the tough times, and of course there've been many, and they'll continue to be more challenges. But I remember, and I don't remember who said it to me, and I don't remember if it was at a convention. I don't remember if maybe I had heard or looked at a videotape, but I remember Jim Rohn, hearing Jim Rohn say on a tape or something that well, let me back up a little bit. Because I had to overcome some difficult challenges before I came to Legal Shield, and those difficult challenges, in order for me to overcome those challenges, I had to take a hard look at myself and lower my pride and really look at where I was and look at who I was and just be honest about where I was and what really was true and what wasn't true about myself. And I had to admit some hard things about myself. And if I wasn't going to do that, I was never going to get past these hard challenges that had stopped my growth and, quite frankly, had made me start to lose a lot of the things that I had gained in my life. So I had to call a spade a spade. I had to go and I had to focus on the issues and the problems that were blocking me from growing and achieving and becoming what that I know that the Lord had in store for me to become and to achieve. And then I had to find mentors. Now, this was even before I found Legal Shield, but I had to find mentors who had traveled that same road and had overcome similar issues that I had not been able to overcome. And again, I had to lower my pride and take suggestions. And really, without much question, I had to do what they did to get what they got. And it was a hard road. But here's the thing, there was a lot on the line for my success. So my why for following suggestions and taking to get myself out of this self-destructive mode and behavior was really, really high, because I was stagnant. I was going backwards, and my health was getting really bad. My emotional state was horrible. My relationships were really, really bad. And that wasn't going to get better magically. So I had to admit where I was. I had to admit who I was at the time. And I had to set a goal for myself that I was going to be able to come out of this. And so when I got to Legal Shield, it was sort of like I had worked on those skills and humbled myself to get to where I was. And then now I'm here with Legal Shield, and it's almost like the same type of thing I had to do because I came to Legal Shield without a lot of business skills, without a lot of the personal development to make it in business to reach the goals that I had set for myself. And many of you guys know, my wife was working and she was pregnant and she was working, double shifts and all of that. And I did not want that. She didn't want that. Nothing wrong with working. Nothing wrong with two families working. It's just my wife wanted to do other things, and I wanted other things for myself. And I wanted Legal Shield to be the main source of income for those particular goals. But here was the problem with me. And now let me get back to Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn said that you will get paid in direct, as a direct result of the value that you bring to your team, your industry, or your company. And he said that. Now, I heard that, and that was a kick in the stomach again. Here I am again, and I'm getting a kick in my gut because I was not making any money at all. I wasn't making the money that I wanted to make and needed to make for my wife to stop working and for us to get a house and to relocate in Tennessee. All of those things I wanted to do, none of that was happening. And yes, Sonora, I wanted to blame, my sponsor. I wanted to blame the product. I wanted to blame, Ada. I wanted to blame, a lot of people. But Jim Rohn said, and a lot of the people that I looked and had seen that had gotten so many great results and were great motivational speakers, and I trusted what they'd said because a lot of my mentors quoted Jim Rohn and trusted him. And when he said that, here I was again, folks. I was back in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and I had to look at myself and say, the obstacle is you're looking at the obstacle. Once again, you are looking at the obstacle. But the good news was that I was a part of an industry that promised me that if I worked hard on myself and realized that if I didn't like the financial results I was getting as being a team builder at that time, that I had to work on myself so that the value that I brought to the industry or the value that I brought to the team would attract the success that I so wanted and desired. And I, and I tell you that still I have those conversations with myself in my mirror because I still am not where I want to be financially. I'm still not where I want to be. But the good news is the formula for that is I need to work on myself more in being a better communicator. I need to work on myself for being a better listener to my team when they come in. I need to work on myself so that I do the onboarding for my associates so that there's a clarity when they come aboard. Follow, as John Fahrenbach said, so brilliantly. How well am I following, the system? How well am I working on myself so that I can bring when I rise just a little bit during the week, and I become just a little bit better in the week, and when I hold my Sunday momentum Zoom, am I that much better than I was the week before when I held my momentum Zoom, so that my team gets just a little bit more value and they become a little bit more, become a little bit better because they've invested the time to be here. Can I offer that to them? And that is so difficult because, because that's where the hard work is. I used to think that the hard work was I had to save, my star. So for example, Cameron, she's doing well on my team. So I used to think, well, it's my responsibility to save Cameron, right? It is my responsibility to be everything, to Cameron. And then when Cameron didn't do what I thought she should do, I looked at myself and I would beat myself up because I didn't save Cameron. Now, I'm not saying anybody else had these feelings and had these issues, but these were things that I struggle with, right? It was displaced of focus, right? Of saving individuals and whatnot. And that you just can't do. But when I realized what really I needed to improve on for me as a team leader, or for me as a searcher of talent, a talent scout out there, to become better at that. When I realized that had to be my focus, I started to see more success, and the success is a little bit slower than it was originally, when I was just recruit, and let's just throw them all up against the side of the wall and let's see who sticks. And I don't really care who makes it. It's just recruit, collect the checks, collect the thing, collect this. And then all of a sudden people started, to quit, and my persistency went very, very, very low. And I wasn't getting the bonuses, and really climbing out of that, was and still is, very, very difficult to do. But that's a part of the business. That's a part of, my growth, because now I may not be going as fast as other people, but what I'm doing is I'm building a foundational structure really in myself and in my team that is something that will start to duplicate and grow away from me, so that eventually, if I want to, I can walk away from Legal Shield, and my income continues to go up and double and triple and quadruple with like a lot of the people that I look to and that I respect. So yes, getting back, it's all about learning. We've got to forgive ourselves. We've got to realize, as Mr. Tanner has taught me really from day one, that this is a process. This is a journey, but you are the journey, right? You are the process. So enjoy that, and do what you need to do to continuously work on you, and celebrate the wins. Celebrate. If you're going to the Super Saturday and you're there, that's a humongous win. If somebody on your team goes to the Super Saturday, that's a humongous win. So we've got to enjoy that journey, enjoy that growth. And the more that we learn to do that, and we learn to celebrate who we are in that journey and that growth, I promise you that the income will start to come in, not magically, but it'll start to come in, because that's the process. And that's how this business and that's how this industry works. Thank you so much, Mr. Tanner, for having me on. I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Chris, thank you so much. Oh man, I'm just sitting here thinking, while you were wrapping up, I'm like, okay, can I just hit end? Am I allowed to do that? I mean, that's just after all of the feedback from so many great folks, I don't know what to say to add to that. And also I acknowledge that people are staying with us. So, you know, typically you don't know what to expect when someone says how long, doesn't say how long this is. We went through 30 minutes, 60 minutes, we're 90 minutes in, you're all still here with us, hearing from people that are on this journey with you. Chris, thanks so much. And here's how I'm going to end it. Here's how we're going to wrap up. I want you to think, I want you to be aware that you just heard people tell their story, and all of those people's story begins way before Legal Shield, and the story makes total sense about what happened before they got here. Like everything that happens before here prepares us for here. If we can have the awareness, if we can see it and feel it, it will take us to the next level. Everything we need, we showed up with. Everything you need, you showed up with. Everything your team members need, they showed up with. That's why they're here. That's why we're here. And I said I would share a little bit more of my story, more than I normally am able to share. So let me do that for you today. I'll tell you a story that goes back to December of 2021. So it's hard to tell this story quickly, so I'm going to tell it as quickly as I can. And let's go into this. And I don't want to distract from any of the great stuff you heard. I just want to drive home the point that we are all here today with all we've lived an experience. We've lived our lives to get here so that we could drag that experience and life forward, and we could make a robust world for ourselves here. And that when you think about it this way, it all makes perfect sense. December 2021, my friend Kevin signed a contract for 3 years, $9 million. He was an athlete. He was in pursuit of the same life and world that I was in. And for those of you who know, and you know, it's not a secret, it was professional wrestling. That's what I hoped to do since I was 8 years old. That's what I pursued through my youth and into young adulthood. That's why I worked 2 jobs, so that I could crisscross the Northeast and hope to get seen by the right people. And my friend Kevin was right there with me in the same moose lodges in front of 50 people where we got paid $20, in the same terrible 5 guys in a hotel room sleeping on the floors trying to save money. And he had gotten a contract with World Wrestling Entertainment prior. And so I was happy for him. And then in December of 2021, he re-signed for 3 years, $9 million. The same guy in the same hotel rooms, in the same moose lodges, and he got a $9 million deal. And I want to tell you just quickly, I have to be totally honest about that. I could not have been happier for him, and I was devastated at the same time. And with all of the years of personal development, I had no idea how to reckon those two emotions. I mean, I could not have been happier for him. I didn't want what he got, but I had at one time wanted that. And yet I just couldn't shake the funk. And so I reached out to Christine Manning. Some of you know Pat and Christine Manning. And I said, Christine, I got to talk to you, because Christine Manning is a working actress. And I said, I just have this conflict inside of me. I said, I'm happy for him, and I'm not jealous of him. But there's something, it's just ripped a hole in me that happened, and that I'm not a part of that world that I was once a part of. And she walked me through that and talked me through that. I think there's a lesson there. She'd been there. She had the same stories. Sometimes she was the best actress for the role, and just it was a matter of the dress didn't fit. I mean, she had stories to help me understand the feelings I was having. But and by the way, I am happy for my friend. He deserved it. He's worked hard his entire life. But I think now about my journey. I think about being 8 years old and being captivated by those larger than life figures on television, and then daring to somehow dare to just say, I know, listen, hey, I might be from a little town in Vermont like everybody else, but if those guys got on television, some way there's a path for me to be there too. And I think about being 14 years old and setting up the rings at small shows that would come through the Northeast, catching on and talking my mom or my grandmother into bringing me to the event so I could work all day for free, 12, 14, 15 hours, set up the ring, hang flyers, run around for the guys, tear down the ring at night, put it back on the truck, and then go home for $0. I think about when I finally did break through, when I had a growth spurt that you might have all noticed in high school, and I became a capable amateur wrestler, and my size, and I continued to grow, and I grew into someone that could possibly get a career that I had so hoped for. And I started to make the rounds, and I worked. And again, just like Kevin, $20 here, $10 there, hours from home, never at a profit, always working today for the promise of the future. I think about the way that prepared me for this business, to be willing to do something today in the hopes of having it pay off in the future. Creating urgency in the moment and patience, it prepared me for this business that I'm in today. Of course, as many of you know, that is a business and an entertainment business that you do in front of people. It got me prepared to be in front of people, to learn how to communicate, to be able to tell a story and not be uncomfortable when people are around. That prepared me for weekly events and Super Saturdays. It prepared me for being able to talk to people and meet people from a variety of different backgrounds. And this business that I joined ultimately so I could have more opportunity to pursue my career and my goals became my conviction. That's not by accident. I believe it all happened purposefully. It all intersected precisely and perfectly so that I could have all of that, ups and downs, failures and successes, learning lessons, things that are just outside of my reach, so that I could arrive here to be with this group of people. Because I'm here today because I lived that life. You're here today because you've lived your life. We don't have to regret a moment of it. Some of it could have been easier, and some of it could have been cleaner, and some of it could have been far less painful, but we are all here in this moment because of every decision, because of every foot forward, because of every choice. And now we've intersected. And we haven't just intersected in some business that's a cool way to make money, or that's convenient because we get to do it from home. We have intersected where we all agree that equal access to equal justice matters, and it's important, and it's a noble pursuit, that it's a problem worth solving, and that we could pick up the baton that came from our forefathers in this business, and that we can be the ones to see it through to the end zone. None of that is by accident. All of it is all a world coming together perfectly for us. And you've heard me say this before. You've heard me say that the founders, the pioneers, the people who came before us, they laid the foundation for us. And then, whether we like to acknowledge it or not, whether we even realize it or not, they've handed it over to us. It's 2023. Some of them are no longer here. Many of them are old. And even though they don't act it, they're probably a little tired. They have done the impossible work so that we can do it easier, faster, simpler, and far more impactful. And that's what we're tasked with. That's what you and I do at this point. We take this forward in the most meaningful way. We are approaching 5 million people that have Legal Shield. While that's impressive, and it certainly impresses the investors, and it's something for us to talk about and glorify, here's the vision. At 5 million people, let's just acknowledge the reality. At 5 million people spread across 2 countries, while we are changing the lives of each of those 5 million people, no question about it, we're not changing the culture yet. Here's what changes the culture: 50 million. Because at 50 million people, may I be so bold as to say that when there's 50 million Legal Shield members, that at an insurance company where they're saying, hey, listen, we need to deny more claims. In that meeting, someone's going to stand up and say, we're not going to be able to, sir, because a lot of people have Legal Shield. At 50 million of our members across the United States, when we have this kind of critical mass number, there are going to be governments, local municipal governments, state governments that are going to say, we're not going to be able to do it that way because of Legal Shield. I don't know that everybody appreciates that. When we get to critical mass, when we tip the balance of power, all kinds of decisions are going to shift and change, because it isn't that we don't have these rights. It isn't that we don't have the amendments to the Constitution and the Constitution itself here in the United States. It isn't that we don't have those. It's that without access to attorneys at every moment, 24 hours a day, then it doesn't matter if we have them, because it's too hard to access them. But what we're changing is not the law, because the law is already on our side as individuals and as citizens walking freely. We have the law on our side, but we don't have access to it the way we will. The way you and I enjoy a life of privilege of saying, listen, we're just going to have our attorney handle it. When 50 million people have that same feeling and thought and empowerment, the whole thing shifts. And all of a sudden, the school district is having a school board meeting and saying, not only will it not be popular if we do it this way, we're not going to be able to, because too many of the parents have Legal Shield. Do you understand what I'm saying? We are going to change the way people make decisions, the way people make rules and regulations, the way people interact with our citizens, our members, because we're going to reach a critical mass, but we're not going to do it with the number of associates we have right now. So I need you to share the opportunity. I need you to share the word. I need you to hold fast to what you've learned here over these 4 weeks, and especially tonight, that it's not easy and it's not supposed to be easy. To become successful financially, and especially in the way that this business allows you to be, shouldn't be easy. If it were, you should be highly suspicious of it. And to be able to create the change and an environment for the whole thing to shift, it shouldn't be easy. And you should be suspicious if someone suggested that it would be. We're going to change every community, every state, and 2 countries. We're going to change your life financially and mine. We're going to change everybody's lives that we touch that is willing to join us on this mission. They're going to earn more income. They're going to have more choices. They're going to be empowered by these services, and they're going to spread the word. That's what we're doing. And it's our turn to do it. We've got the right people in place to lead an army forward. We don't have everybody we need for the army, but we certainly have the generals and lieutenants and captains in place. I am sure of that. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to all of our speakers here tonight and throughout these 4 weeks. I hope that April's Millionaire Monday events have been valuable to you. I hope you'll share these recordings with your team as you go forward. But most importantly, I hope you will do the work on a daily basis that will change your business, your life, your community, and this incredible company. Good night, everybody.